Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ready, Aim, Retire. I'm Rob Kirvan, your host, along with Tony Shore. This is the show where we talk about retirement planning, what to do, during retirement, your legacy planning, what your family will do down the road if you are gone. So buckle up. It's going to be a great show, Tony, as usual.
Yeah.
Tony, I was talking to Tony off air, momentarily, and it's funny that I know these dates, but I do. That today is the kickoff to the Minnesota State Fair.
It is.
Right?
It is. For a Chicago guy to know the kickoff date.
I've never been to the State Fair, but I've heard a lot over the years. So this is exciting. When is your first day? When are we going?
I'm not going until next week. I have family members that are there as we speak.
Oh, nice.
So my daughter's there now with her boyfriend. And I'm going, well, actually, I may go this weekend if I can sneak away. So
you can.
Yeah. I mean, the food alone is just worth the drive, right? I mean, it's so good.
I see a lot of photos. I see a lot of things. So that's exciting stuff, Tony. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
We should probably prep our listeners and do a little tease next year.
Yes.
We want to do a show actually live from the fair.
Right. Tony and I have discussed it. I've never been, so it's like, it'll be my coming out party. We'll get a booth or something going on there. We'll have a live feed coming in.
Yeah.
Test some of the food, but ask people about retirement. Just ask, Walker by, like, how are we prepared? What are we looking at? Where are we at in life? What does this look like? And just get some off the cuff answers. I think it'd be great.
I'm going to grab a cameraman from here and our videographer from here. And we're going to go down to the State Fair and I'll be on with you and we'll just talk to people.
Yeah. How good would that be? And throw a pronto pup in once in a while, maybe a deep fried pickle of some sort.
Sure.
We'll do all of that kind of stuff. We'll get all the fair food and then all the people involved. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's something to behold. That's for sure.
Yes.
A couple 100,000 people out there eating a lot of deep fried foods.
Right. Pork chop on a stick.
Yeah. Gotta have it.
That's just classic stuff.
Isn't it?
It is.
Deep fried Twinkies, pork chops on a stick, pronto pups. Yeah. Cheese curds galore. Yeah.
Cheese. Yeah. Who doesn't like a cheese curd?
Oh, the State Fair cheese curds at the main booth are the best I've ever had. And you're looking at a guy who, I don't know if you can tell by looking, but I've had
a few curds in your day.
I've had a few cheese curds in my time, Rob.
Okay.
Probably couldn't notice.
No, I didn't. No,
Doctors say I've got what they call a bit of a weight problem. I like to eat the curds 2 at a time, and they get lodged right in here.
Oh, my God. All right, Tony. Let's get after it.
Let's get back to business.
We're going to talk about life after work. And I can tell you, so many people, retirement is a massive step. I would say, I'm currently in the phase of an empty nester. Yeah, that's pretty easy one. It's just like, hey, Natalie, what do you want to do? Want to go out somewhere for dinner? What are you doing tonight? She went to a concert last night. I was at home. I'm like, it's kind of nice. It's a whole different thing, but that one is easy compared to retirement. When people think of retirement, they look forward to it. They're working. They're going through life and they look forward to this day. This is a big day when they finally, take that step into retirement. And for some, easy peasy. For others though, it's a struggle and it's a big struggle, and I want to go through a few points today to help you guys out there of what I've seen through my many years of doing this. Many clients retire through the years. So I hear the stories, Tony. I sit in there with the people having a great time, have figured this thing out. I also sit in with the people that are like, oh, I'm so bored. I have nothing to do. I needed something else to do. I never thought it was going to be like this. And it's kind of, for them, it's a struggle. Mm-hmm. It's not as fun as what you think it is. So we're going to hit on a few points that I've discovered, through the years of doing this. And hopefully, if you're listening out there, you can grab onto one of these, but definitely listen to them because it's not as easy as you think. And it's not going to be as fun as you think unless you do a little bit of planning.
Right. You have to do the planning. And if you do, here's what you could end up with.
Retirement will be a wonderful adventure and we'll do it together.
Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, Tony is on one today. Like, I don't know if he had an extra Diet Coke, or I don't know, maybe they had the donuts in there. They're all full of sugar, but he's on his game. Buckle up. I think this
Yeah,
is
I
gonna be
had
a good
about 40 cups of coffee before we
40 cups of
started the
coffee.
show. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. It's good.
Yep.
All right. First one, Tony. Number one, you got to be confident in your financial plan. Like, without this, everything else I speak of really doesn't matter, because if you're not confident in your financial plan, and if you don't have an investment plan, a distribution plan, and an insurance plan in place, what that's going to cause you is the uncertainty, the stress. Tony, a few weeks ago, we did that show, when the market went down a lot, and on the Monday, we did a show. We record these on Thursdays, and I kind of said, patience will pay off. And here's, as we sit today, guess what? Market's back exactly where it was. So if you don't have those plans in place, though, you'll be uncertain. You'll see the market go down and be like, oh my gosh, my retirement's doomed. It's terrible, and all of this kind of stuff. As you lead up to that big day, make sure whoever you're working with, and hopefully it's us, but whoever you're working with, whatever financial planner you've engaged, you're meeting with them a little more frequently and getting your concerns out on the table. Like, things, as you get closer and closer. And Tony, I've sat in the room. I've had clients work with me for a decade before they retired. And even the coolest cucumber, and I tell this to every client that's retiring, because I've had many of them, and they're the ones that are, it's going to be great. That moment comes where they come in and they are sitting in front of me white as a ghost. And we've done compasses, we've done financial plans, we've done projections, we've done the worst, we've done the best. You sit there right before you're retired, you are nervous, you have anxiety, and it's a stressful time until you get to the other side, and so you want to make sure whoever you're working with, that you're sitting down with them, and you're going through, I just saw this, or I'm nervous about this, or do I have enough for X, Y, and Z? And make sure you get these concerns out, because the more questions you ask and the more good answers you get, the more comfortable you're going to be.
And the more prepared you're going to be, and the more prepared your financial advisor will be able to make you, so you can sleep well at night and not have to worry about it. But you're right. I know so many people, when they hit retirement, who I've known when they retire, it's like turning off that steady paycheck and not worrying about not having a steady paycheck coming from an employer that is going to be there every 2 weeks. That's tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't matter how much you've socked away for retirement. I don't care what the number is, and I don't care how much income you need. Your basket's your basket, and that's all you got. So for an individual and a couple, it's definitely stressful. But I will tell you this is, if you have a solid financial plan in place, the first month you're still stressed, Tony. First quarter, you're probably still a little stressed, but as distributions are coming in your account, after, and everyone's different, but it could take you 6 months. It could take you a year before you're like, okay, I'm confident in this aspect of it. My financial plan is working. We have people retire every single year, Tony. So we had them in 2022. We had a lot in April of 2020. If you remember March, the market went down 36%.
Oh, yeah.
They might have been a little bit more uneasy than most, I'm going to tell you. But
Sure,
we're planning for this way in advance. We can't plan for an event like that, but we can plan for the long term. And guess what? All the ones that retired, they're loving life, and they're having a good time. The other thing I want to say on this topic of being confident in financial plan, give us a call. Go to 630-780-1099. And what we'll do is, this is a shameless plug, Tony. My second book is called A Plan with a Purpose. So it's a smaller book that you can get through, but it goes through some of the items we're going to discuss today, and it goes through the different areas that you should be thinking of when you're getting a financial plan in place. So anyone that calls, mention that you heard Tony and I, and Tony was on one, mention that when you call 630-780-1099, and we'll get you a copy of that book. If a lot of our clients have it, obviously, but if you don't have one, give us a call. We'll mail that thing out to you, so you have it, because I think that's a good thing, especially if you're out there and you're within 5 years or 10 years of retirement. Perfect time to spend, you get that through that book in 4 or 5 hours, and get through that thing, and then it'll provide you with a little bit more things that you need to work on or just button up in your retirement.
Sure. Well, and I think that's fantastic. And you're right. You have a lot of resources for our listeners out there and viewers. And so they should take advantage of that. You have to get your plan reviewed. Even if you think you have a plan, get a second opinion and have a written plan in place before you retire, and be running questions by an experienced financial advisor or retirement income planner like Rob before you retire. And that is crucial, isn't it?
It is. And we get a lot of people, that come in, are referred, by our clients. Thank goodness. We have great clients that want to, have their colleagues involved because they've had a great experience. But they come in, and sometimes they come in a little too close to retirement, so can we add value and tighten things up? For sure. But the earlier you get in and get this stuff organized, the better you're going to be. I can assure you of that. Your success rate will skyrocket. You'll feel good, and you'll feel better going into retirement because we've done planning and planning and planning, and we're comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done a lot. So, what else do we need to know about life after work? What do you think our listeners should be aware of?
Other than having a solid financial plan, I think the number one thing, Tony, is finding purpose. So there's an old saying that says you need to retire to something, not from something to something. And what that means is, like, over the years, I've seen clients, Tony, they do this well. They've already planned on volunteering somewhere, to give back or something of interest. They join meetup groups of things that are of interest. So I've, many clients, like, you think of your day-to-day job, that may not be your total interest. That's your job. If you're an engineer, well, this is what I do, but you have many interests outside of there. And people take that opportunity to find these meetup groups that are in the same thing, whether it's hiking, whether it's crocheting, whether it's any interest you have, you can find one of these. What else did they do? They do the meetup groups. Sorry about that. They do travel, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of people want to travel in retirement. That's a huge goal. I bet you have a lot of clients that like to travel or take the kids to Disney World or go to national parks.
All of that stuff. And even doing something, Tony, simple as like a weekend trip or a day trip, doing something when you're in that mode of retirement, having something to plan for is just as important as everything else. You want to be looking forward to something.
You want to stay active, have a purpose, right?
Have a purpose. Exactly. And have something that you want to retire to. Get a part-time job. So a lot of people will say, what are you talking about? I just finished this.
I just retired.
30 years, 40 years, I'm retired. Why would I ever get a part-time job? I can tell you that I have many clients that don't need the money, Tony. They do not need the money. But what they do is they get a part-time job in an area that interests them. So
at a library,
so they're interested in that.
Museum.
Like golf courses.
Yeah, the
museum.
golf course.
I have them at flower shops. I have them at auto parts stores. I have them at the big box retail stores. So things that interest them, but they can still socially engage with people. You're coming from work where you're doing things, and I'll get into that in a bit, but this gives you something more. It's interesting to you. You don't need the money, so it's kind of nice. Now be aware, folks, your boss may be a 23-year-old kid, so that's
there's always that. Yeah.
I have a lot of conversations with, I always ask, I'm like, okay, so who do you report to? Well, he's 27 or 24 or like whoever the kid happens to be, which is super funny because, most of the clients I have that are doing that, they're in their 60s, some are in the 70s.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's like reporting to your grandchild,
Yes.
but because they're doing it for interest and not for money, they're generally really interested. If you ever go into Home Depot and you get that guy that looks retired, and he literally brings you around the store to whatever you need because he's interested in it.
Yeah.
If you get the one that's not and you get a 20-something, they'll say, go to aisle 7. But
exactly,
Jerome will walk you right to aisle 7.
Exactly.
I've used this on a fence.
It's so true.
Yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah, because you're interested in it, right?
Yeah, I just had that happen to me. I went to a Lowe's and I went in and it was a younger person. And they just said aisle 17 and they turned around and walked the other way. And then the other day I was in a Home Depot and it was obviously a guy working part-time in retirement. And he's like, "Oh, let me show you."
Right.
Yeah, that's the difference
But
right
that's what
there.
they do. That's what
Yeah,
they do. They'll
yeah,
walk you right through the thing,
and
and
they'll talk to you about what you're working on, and yeah,
yeah, yeah, and they have because and they have interest because
yeah,
this is what they're doing for a couple days a week,
yep,
and getting out there for a couple days a week, like it all sounds good, Tony. Oh, I'm gonna be retired. I can every day's a Saturday.
yeah,
All those kinds of things. But you do need these things, and like I said, whether it's the part-time job, whether it's volunteering, whether it's doing these meetup groups, you need something. You need something to fill the time,
yeah,
something to fill the space, and if it's of interest, then it's enjoyable. You can't just fill time with something you have zero interest in.
right, but you have to have a purpose, and that's like my grandfather lived to 101, and everybody asked him,
Well,
he was still actively going at 100. I mean, he was out camping, doing things
no
at
kidding.
100 years old. Yeah, he drove up until he was age 100.
No
Still had a
kidding.
license. So, people ask him, "How do you do it? How'd you stay so?" And he goes, "You can't stop. You have to have a purpose."
Yeah.
That's his secret to longevity is having a purpose. And you can say, I want to catch up on reading or TV shows or golf every day. You're gonna hit a wall
Mhm.
pretty quick. I mean,
Right.
you might be able to keep that up for a couple of months, but you don't want to just sit around on the couch.
No.
You're
No.
either gonna pass away or you're going to get really bored. You have to have the social interaction. And that's why I think like volunteering at your
Mhm.
church or for an organization or a nonprofit, that volunteer work you talked about in the beginning,
Yeah.
or getting a job if you love golf, get a job at the part-time job at the golf course.
Yeah, and you get your fill of socialization, so you're getting to talk to the people. If you're volunteering, you get your fill of like, hey, I'm doing something good for people, and this is what this is kind of where I want to, divide my time. But all of those are important, and they're important, and like you just hit on is from a health aspect. If you're just sitting around all day, it's not going to be good.
No.
If you're and if your noodle's not working, and by working, as simple as talking to people and seeing people and doing that, you need to keep that going, because if it's just sitting there doing nothing and watching TV or reading a book or whatever, what have you, um, you're not doing anything for yourself, and sitting on
Right.
the couch is definitely not the solution. And like I said, I have many people, clients that they do that. And I sit in here. I'm part psychologist, Tony. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I'm looking up meetup groups for them. I'm like, listen,
Right.
I know you love paddleboarding. I found a meetup group. I know you like biking. Here's a meetup group. Why don't you go? I give them the website, like, because that's how important it is.
Pickleball.
Yeah, pickleball. Everyone does pickleball. I've done it, a few times, but but people love it. Like they really do. The as far as purpose, I'll give you another bullet point is spending more time with the family and the grandchildren. So everyone, if I ask them, what are you going to do in retirement? The ones with families, there's a lot of single people I have, but the ones with families, that's the answer. I'm going to spend more time with my family, spend more time with the grandchildren. But however, some find that the family's really busy, and they actually don't spend as much time as they originally thought, spending time with them, watching the kids,
Yeah.
doing whatever, because they're doing things, and they may not even be in town. They may be out of state, and it's not like you're visiting them every week. Um, and I have the other ones on the same thing that become babysitters. So they become the babysitters for all the grandchildren. So they literally that is a full time job. So they
Oh
went
yeah.
from a full time job to a full time job. So somewhere in between there is a happy medium.
Mhm.
Like I have grandparents, I see the pictures. They're going to the soccer games, they're going to the baseball games. They're like, my grandson or granddaughter is so good at whatever she does, whether it's violin, whether it's a sport,
Sure.
she's top of the class. You know how grandparents are like
Oh yeah.
that grandkid, they're worse than parents. They're worse than like parents,
Oh yeah.
make be the big leagues, but they are so proud, right? So if you have the ability to do that and go to these games and think like that, that's fantastic. But like I said, don't count on that's going to fill all your time. And if it does, then you might be like, oh, Jesus is filling too much of my time. So there's probably something in there, but looking at finding a purpose, and just finding what works for you, but having this, Tony, before you retire. knowing what the plan is before you retire. You can't control the grandkids and whatnot, but you can certainly control, hey, you know what? I'm going to volunteer here. I'm going to get a part-time job here, or I'm going to do this. And, whatever the case may be, or whatever your point of interest is. And maybe you are a big pickleballer or golfer, and you have the ability to do that 4 days a week. Well, good for you. There's nothing that I like to do 4 days a week other than this, Tony, other than this, but like, a sport I love golf. My daughter, golfs, and yeah, I just couldn't do that 4 days a week, and,
Right.
my next door neighbor, John, he's there at 5 days a week, probably a retired guy. I see him there, anytime I'm there, which is not that often. I see John. So he's there a lot,
Yeah.
so, definitely the purpose to me is probably the number one. The next one though, Tony, I have is, so when you work for a company, and think of even where you sit. So you're in Gradient, they got 400 people. Before we went on air, we had, Troy popped in and we were talking to Troy. So there's this sense of community. So you have this whole sense of community that you have. And people use the phrase, "Oh, I got my work husband or my work wife," and
Yeah.
you throw those ones around there's all that sense of community, and then all of a sudden that stops. And when that stops, that can be a real difficult transition for people, where they're just used to that. They're used to the joking and whatever, everyone's got characters within the office framework that, kind of make it fun. And so that's one that you have to be really aware of, that you will lose that work identity. And that's maybe where, when I said, find a purpose and finding these other items to fill in the gap of that work identity. And that could be super helpful, because it's going to be very difficult to replace. I have had some clients, Tony, go back to their old employers on a contract basis. Again, not for the money, but they missed it. They missed it. As much as they looked forward to retiring, and retirement was the ultimate prize. They retired and they missed it. And
Yep.
they missed everything about it. And I've had clients go back to full-time jobs, and they said, "You know what? I just prefer this. I'll work till 80," and they don't need, like, the caveat is they don't need the money. They're doing it because they miss this work identity, social interaction that they were getting on a daily basis. Might be a little bit different now, Tony, with the advent of the work from home, since COVID, so maybe they got weaned off of that a little bit, and that's probably helpful, actually,
Yeah.
if you're only going in there 2 or 3 days a week.
Yep.
But you could probably see something like that with all the cast of characters you work with around there.
Yeah.
I know you would miss it someday.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I need the socialization. That's for sure. Yeah.
Right. And you're talking to people like me every day, and then you get people around work. So that's, that's definitely, a real big one. So,
Yeah.
so I guess I would look at, having a plan with a purpose, making sure you have that, making sure you have purpose in your life for when you leave retirement. Be careful with that loss of work identity. And I'll leave you with this, Tony, is retirement. It's exciting. It's a super exciting phase. I plan, with people, and I love it. I love it when I get to the point where they've been with me 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and we get to that day. And that's it. It's super, super exciting. But folks, you got to listen to me. I see it both ways when you're in retirement, and you have to listen to this and listen to it twice and go through these, and then just let a light bulb go off and say, I'm going to do this. And whatever it is, it may be things I didn't even list, but you need to retire to something, or else it's going to be a long 20, 30 years. It really is, and you'll be more successful, Tony. So who doesn't want to be more successful in
Right.
anything they do, right?
Yeah.
In anything they do.
Retire to something.
Yes.
I think that's the key.
Yeah, I agree.
Retirement will be a wonderful adventure, and we'll do it together.
There you go.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, Rob, before we go, though, let our listeners out there know how they can get a hold of you to get a plan in place, or make sure that all their retirement questions are answered and they do have a plan with a purpose.
Fantastic. So go to our website, apadvisorsgroup.com. There's so much stuff on there. There's so many things that can help push you in the right direction. You want to sit down with us, you can fill out a form to book an appointment right on there. You can also call us at 630-780-1099. If you want to book an appointment, come in. And don't forget, earlier in the show, Tony, I said anyone that called that doesn't have a copy of my book, Plan with a Purpose, and I think it's just perfect for this show, give us a call. We'll send it to you 100% complimentary, because that's how important I think getting some of these ducks in a row are, for folks out there.
Yep. And to get that book, all you have to do is call 630-780-1099. That's 630-780-1099. And listeners, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Ready, Aim, Retire with our host, Rob Kirvan.